Hey everybody, welcome to the Dollar Vigilante, helping you to survive and prosper during and after the dollar collapse. And we've really been helping a lot of people to survive, not only survive, but prosper and profit. Definitely, obviously, with all the things that have been going on in the cryptocurrency space. We have Bitcoin near $6,000, Ethereum, which we actually got people into Bitcoin at $3 in 2011. We recommended Ethereum at around $2, obviously over $300 now, and so many others actually. And we actually feature a lot of the things like ICOs and things like that in the newsletter. So if you're just watching on YouTube, you haven't seen a lot of our content, but so you want to subscribe to that, but go into dollarvigilante.com/subscribe and get all of our content. But I've decided recently that we should focus on a few of the ICOs, the most interesting ICOs coming out, as that is also an incredibly amazing market. I'm super excited about it because, of course, this is just another decentralization of things like what used to be basically owned and run by things like JP Morgan, who's, surprise, surprise, isn't a big fan of cryptocurrencies or Bitcoin. They do a lot of the IPOs. Then you have things like the NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange, and it costs millions of dollars to get involved, and it's all very crony capitalist and a lot of things like that. But now we have the technology through cryptocurrencies to do a lot of things, including ICOs, initial coin offerings. So I wanted to I really haven't had on very many. I guess the only main one that I've had on to date is EOS with Dan Larimer. But I wanted to look at a few of the other ones that are coming out and are currently coming out. Here's a chart I'm going to throw up on the screen here of just the recent, some of the major ICOs that have come out and some of the returns. You can see some of them are 1,000%, some of them are 100 times, not even 1,000%, 1,000 times. Some are 100 times, many are 10 times on the earnings. Now, that's no guarantee of any future investment or anything like that of what you could do, but we've seen just massive amounts of really good rewards in the ICO sector. So I really am going to start to focus on having a few more of those sort of things on things like YouTube and in our blog. So to start off, I want to have on Jedediah Taylor of Decent.bet. He's actually based in Panama. I'm here, of course, in Mexico. A lot of the people doing these sort of things are kind of getting outside of the U.S. for obvious reasons. He's the CEO and founder of Decent.bet, and it's a really interesting. I'm really quite interested in what they're doing. It really throws the entire sort of casino/gambling industry, which is a massive industry, sort of on its heads through the use of cryptocurrency and blockchain. So I wanted to have Jedediah on. So Jedediah, it's a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you so much. Very excited to be here. Big fan of the show, obviously. I think all of us in crypto are. So it's absolutely a pleasure and a privilege to be on here. So thank you very much, Jeff.
Oh, it's my pleasure as well. And I want to get right into it and talk about Decent.bet. Maybe you can just give us sort of the initial story, where it came from, why you decided to do it, what it is. For people out there, it's really phenomenal. It's a whole new approach on the entire industry. And again, this is what cryptocurrencies and blockchain enable. And we're going to see entire industries all changing. And you're focused on the casino industry. So why don't you just start from where this all began and where you're at now and what you do?
Sure. So I have a background in gaming. I've spent a number of years working with online sports books, as well as I grew up in Nevada, which of course is a legalized gambling state. So I did what a lot of young people in Nevada do is, I was at the tables at a very young age, I think 16, 17 years old with a fake ID. I was sitting down at the blackjack tables trying to learn what was going on. And very quickly, I think most gamblers learn that the house always wins, right? So the way that the games work is that it offers a competitive advantage for the casino. So I'm a competitor, I would say, at heart, and I always want to win with anything that I do. So I'd continually look for ways to beat the casino to some degree, and I taught myself how to count cards, and that eventually evolved into poker, which I think you're a fan of as well. The thing I really enjoy about poker is you get to consciously decide when you put more money in the pot based on the odds that you have. So you do have some sort of level of control of what your likelihood of winning is. And in those instances, the house isn't always winning. The percentages can actually be in your favor. The same thing held true with counting cards in blackjack. That evolved into sports betting, where I'm a big fan of sports. I've played sports my whole life and very much enjoy watching them. So naturally, I was intrigued to put some money on some games. And I learned very quickly that it's challenging to win at sports betting. So we developed a whole sports betting hedging system involving online casinos and sign-up bonuses and things like that that would guarantee us wins based on being on both sides of the game, incorporating these online bonuses to hedge the losses that were achieved in the middle. But we didn't care who won or lost because we were on both sides of the game with something covering our costs. So for, the last 18 years, I've tried to figure out how to beat the casino. And I've been successful in a lot of ways, but also that got a very large understanding, a very in-depth understanding of how casinos operate and where their advantages lie. Now moving forward, growing up in Las Vegas and Reno, Nevada, you see these huge, elaborate casinos that they literally invest billions and billions of dollars into. And it's very easy to identify how much money they're making. They're not putting these casinos up for nothing, and definitely not to lose money. They clearly know the profits are going to supersede the cost of the facility and the operating costs, and they're going to make a ton of money like Vegas always has. So I knew the profitability of gaming was huge. And when I started to look at cryptocurrency, it's funny, I watched a video back in March by Andreas Antonopoulos, and he went into kind of somewhat of an economic crisis that is and was happening at the time, where he goes into 20 national banks were at zero or negative interest rates, which has never happened in the history of the world before. We've never reached negative interest rates. Orthodox economics say that it's impossible, and we shouldn't even approach zero for an extended period of time. So for it to be impossible, but actually happening, something's going on, right? Like, it's not just, something small or something we shouldn't pay attention to. It's unprecedented, literally. And he would go on to the unemployment rates associated in the countries with these economic or currency crises and how they were clearly escalating and growing as the situation got worse and worse. Andreas is really focused on Bitcoin. So Bitcoin has solved the challenge for people worldwide on where to store their wealth. So if a bank's offering a negative or a zero interest rate, that's clearly not a good place to store your wealth, particularly in a negative interest rate scenario, because you're actually losing money every time that interest occurs rather than gaining it. So when it comes to the challenge related to that economic crisis, it was really two parts. It was storing the wealth, but as unemployment rates rose, there's a challenge just creating wealth in general. So if Bitcoin and some of the other currency-related coins have solved the issue of how to store wealth or where to store wealth and not experience those zero or negative interest rates, the lingering challenge is we have to, I feel, we as a community have to enable people to create wealth as well. And if we can enable them to create wealth and then ultimately store the wealth, that starts to really have an impact worldwide on, changing things. So what we did is we built an online casino that's built on the Ethereum blockchain. So the unique value proposition that we offer is we literally built a casino with a zero profit business model. The casino itself, the organization, doesn't make profits. We take 100% of the profits and we give them back to the community. And what that does is it creates the opportunity for the crypto community and the Decent.bet community in particular to earn off of crypto. So now they have a place to earn and obviously store wealth like we spoke about earlier. And gambling, why I kind of elaborated earlier on how profitable gambling is if we want to decentralize opportunity and enable people to earn, the more they can earn, the more of the challenge that we've actually solved. So based on how profitable it is, I felt decentralizing that and actually enabling anyone in the world to own a piece of a casino and have that earnings potential associated with owning a casino just like Las Vegas would be the way that I could give back to the community and start to solve challenges that some people that are in less fortunate situations might experience.
Yeah, that's great. Really interesting. Of course, the casino always has the advantage in these casino games, except for poker, as you pointed out. But you're kind of allowing people to become the casino owner through this sort of new model. So very interesting. So what stage is everything at? Like, can you go to this casino right now, or where are you at on that?
Sure. So my background is I've for the past, 8 years now, I've worked directly with private equity firms and venture capital firms looking to acquire companies and ultimately scale and build those companies to a potential we saw, but wasn't currently being achieved by the ownership. So we look for kind of like opportunity. And when you come from the traditional investment background, ICOs are very unique because the majority of ICOs come to the community with a roadmap, a website, and a white paper and say, if you provide us the funding, then we're going to build this platform. And with my background, that's just, I don't agree with that because I feel like everybody needs to have skin in the game if we're all committed. And for the company to have skin in the game, that means we have to invest as well. And we have to expedite the process and the time that it takes for investors to acquire value back from their investment, right? So I've been developing the platform. We as a team, I started it about 6 months ago, recruited a team. We've been working on the platform for almost 6 months now, and our ICO isn't even finished yet. We're just a day or two away of releasing the alphas for both our slot machine offering, as well as we're releasing our wallet. And when you look at, and then to go a step further, we're looking to push our platform live to mainnet where it can actually generate revenue in Q1 of 2018 and probably the early part of Q1 of 2018. So when previous ICOs have come to the community, raised funds with the white paper, the roadmap, and the website, there's companies that have done that a year ago, 2 years ago, in some cases 3 years ago, and still don't have a platform that can actually generate revenue and provide value back to investors from a revenue generation standpoint. So for us starting this 6 months ago, just getting to the ICO 3 weeks ago, we finish here in the next 3-4 days. And our ability to deliver a revenue generating platform as early as Q1 of 2018, I believe we're offering more value to our investors at a quicker rate than really any other ICO I've seen in the past. So I'm really excited. As you can't use the platform yet, it will be available for testing, but here really soon, 3-4 months from now, we will be pushing live to where it can be used and generate revenue.
That's great. Give us a little bit more information on the ICO. I know there's only a few days left, but people still have the opportunity to get involved in that. On what date does it end? What level is it at? How much funds you've raised to date, and all that kind of information?
Sure. So we've raised right around 49,000 Ethereum to date, and then so the dollar value of that obviously fluctuate as Ethereum fluctuates, but I believe as early as yesterday it was upwards of $17 million that we had raised to date. We are capping it at $25 million, so that would be, there can never be any more. I don't believe in an uncapped ICO that needs, you're raising essentially operating capital, and whatever the budget required for that operating capital is the budget required, and that's a fixed number. It's not subjective, so there shouldn't be these infinite raises that allow as much working capital to be raised that may or may not be used. So it is a $25 million cap. The ICO ends at 3 a.m. this Saturday Central Standard Time. Okay. So there's about 4 days left, roughly 4.5 days or so, if I'm thinking quick enough and correctly. But it is coming to an end. The rate is, you get about, I think right now it's 1,960 DBETs per Ethereum. So that's coming out with the current price of Ethereum right around 14 cents per DBET. And we feel that's just incredibly undervalued, strictly from the perspective that we have a functioning platform coming to market within the next 6 months and probably as early as 3 or 4 months. When you look around the crypto space and how many companies actually have the ability to generate revenue and where their market cap is, we are extremely undervalued in that regard. And that was the idea behind it, is that to truly add value to investors at the ICO, we need to deliver those platforms and those things that positively affect market capitalization and therefore price per token very quickly. And that would reward the ICO participants by those, what should be very large increases in value relating to the token as those platforms are released.
So you're raising up to about $25 million. What exactly will that be? What are the expenditures on that? Will it be a lot of it? Will it be programming? Will it be marketing? Give us a little bit of a insight on that.
40% of the raise is going to development, 25% to operations, 25% to marketing, and 10% to legal.
Okay, great. And so for holders of DBET, what are they essentially buying here? So they're buying into this opportunity that you're building, and then as I'm just trying to imagine how this all plays out. So as it comes in and it's an operating sort of business, they're essentially owners of that business. So they're essentially owners of this casino business, essentially, is what they're buying into. Is that correct?
Sure. So that's partially correct. The thing that's unique about the DBET token is oftentimes when I look at crypto companies, I'm like, what's the utility of the token? What is it actually intended to use for? Is it just this thing that's floating around there that doesn't really have a use case or utility? The DBET token can be used to gamble on the platform. It's actually the only currency that you can gamble on the platform with. So all of our players will be required to purchase DBETs to participate in the casino games. It can be traded and held like any other currency. Like you mentioned, it could also be invested into our Be the House model. You mentioned something earlier about where we're enabling people to be the casino in a sense. We say decent.bet, you can be the player, be the house, and essentially be the casino. So the token could be used to invest and fund the house and be the casino, where you would return those dividends based on the profitability, as well as participating in the house gets you entries into a lottery. So the way that we distribute 100% of the profits is we give a 95% of the profits back to the house fund participants. The remaining 5% will be awarded to one lucky lottery winner each quarter, based on a random number generation that'll all be published to the blockchain. But that lucky winner will literally earn 5% of the total profits of the casino for that quarter. So one thing I should mention is what it requires people to do that want to participate in the Be the House model is you contribute DBET tokens into our fund, and those tokens are locked up for a quarter. At the end of that quarter, you can either withdraw your investment in the profits, you can withdraw some and roll some over, or you can roll the whole thing over. But that's all the utilities is you're entered into a lottery, you can own the portion of the casino, you can gamble with it, or you can trade it and hold it like any other currency.
Very cool. So with the ICO, a lot of people out there haven't necessarily invested in ICOs before or even know much about them. Why don't you give us a little bit of the basics on it, like where people would go if they're interested, what they need to do? Give sort of like the basics of that. Of course, they'd have to have Ethereum. Give us a little bit of on that. And I believe you also have a wallet possibly coming out soon if you want to talk a bit about that as well. So give us a sort of the technical details of what's involved. And also let us know, are there any people that are not able to participate in the ICO, perhaps American citizens, which are almost always cut out of these things, maybe Chinese citizens? Just give us the details on the ICO.
Absolutely. So in order to participate in the ICO, it's really simple. You can visit our website, which is www.decent.bet. And at the top right, there's a little red participate in ICO button. Just simply click on that. It's going to reroute you to a page that's going to provide you our Ethereum address. Now, what you need to do is you need to send Ethereum to that address, but make sure that the wallet that you send it from is ERC20 compliant. You do not want to send it from an exchange because you will not receive your DBETs if you send it from an exchange. So pretty please do not do that. What we suggest is Mu, which is My Ether Wallet, or MetaMask. Like, strongly encourage everybody to use one of those two. You would simply use either of those wallets, send Ethereum to the address listed on the website, and you would immediately return your DBET. It would immediately return your DBET tokens back to that wallet. We have a very active Slack community, so if you are interested in participating, you can reach out to me on Facebook. We'll get my credentials over, my name somewhere in the comments, I'm sure. You can find me on Facebook. I can connect you to the Slack, because you will need to add the token to the Ether wallet. All of this is very simple. I know anything that sounds new can seem complicated at times. I promise you, it's very, very, very easy. And we are, again, very active and anxious to support everybody. So your DBETs would be returned immediately. And then once the ICO finishes, you can transfer those DBETs to wherever you would like. In regards to participation, you're correct. United States citizens cannot participate in the ICO. Also, some other countries are Iran, Syria, China, are some of the ones that stand out. At the end of the day, investors are, somewhat responsible to know their own local jurisdiction and if they're allowed to participate in ICOs in those jurisdictions or not. But it's really a select few amount of countries that we specifically have identified are not allowed to participate, which are the ones that I've mentioned before. What an ICO is, if you'd like me to elaborate slightly on that, is ICO stands for Initial Coin Offering. And it's essentially the first time that the public has the opportunity to purchase the currency. It's the first time the company introduces the currency to the community and allows them to invest in it. So that's a way to kind of fund the company moving forward, as well as give investors an opportunity to essentially get in early, where they can see those types of gains, hopefully see those types of gains that you mentioned earlier, the 1,000%, the 100%, the earlier the better. So ICO is literally the earliest stage the general public is allowed to participate.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and as I mentioned, we are going to be covering a lot more ICOs here on YouTube. We're even looking at expanding our Dollar Vigilante newsletter to have a whole add-on part to it, just covering ICOs, a rapidly expanding market. And as you can see, so many interesting potential things going on in that space that just weren't possible before things like the blockchain and before things like ICOs and all these sort of things. So this is a real game changer in terms of a whole new world of potential and many interesting things. So we're going to be definitely covering that. We're even considering here at the Dollar Vigilante starting our own ICO, which would essentially invest into all of the things that we are investing in the newsletter. So that might be a little down the road a little bit. I do want to throw it out there, though, just in case people did want to contact me if they want to get involved in stuff like that, if you have some sort of skills or things like that. But I really appreciate you, Jedediah, coming on. Is there anything that we haven't mentioned about Decent Bet that you wanted to get across?
Sure. One thing I'll just mention pretty quickly. I think everybody that's watching is probably pretty in tune with what the blockchain provides, but what we're looking forward to is creating a relationship between the casino and the player that is unattainable in traditional, either online or physical casinos. And what that boils down to is trust. And one of the beautiful things about the blockchain is it's completely transparent and verifiable. So whatever we say the house edge is on our slot machines, on our crap tables, on our roulette wheels, everyone can go out and verify that. And the second part is all of the bets are placed in smart contracts, which essentially act as escrow. So when bettors win, they can rest assured that they're going to get paid. Again, going back to the trust factor. When it comes to online casinos, this is a big issue. It's not an issue really at all with physical casinos because they have so much money and they have the cashiers that are just loaded. Everybody always gets paid. But when it comes to online sportsbook, which is a huge piece of the market, anybody that has experience with it knows you need to find a reputable book and you're hoping that they pay you at the end of the day. With the smart contract type escrow system, bettors are assured to get paid. There's no manual interaction or manual dictation as to whether or not the winning side of the bet gets paid out. So that solves that issue. And then even going into physical casinos, if you sit down on a slot machine and you're playing it, you really don't know if the house's edge, meaning that how often they're going to win, is 20%, 30%, 10%. You don't know how fair it actually is. So bringing that casino onto the blockchain where anyone can verify their odds, they will know they are some of, if not the best in the business, to know that every bet is guaranteed to be paid out, and to also go back to really the core of our mission, to also get the distribution of the 100% of the profits, we feel is just an absolute game changer, and it's a much better model than the traditional models. So when we successfully execute on this, we feel it could revolutionize gaming worldwide. One other thing that is really exciting for us is we have huge relationships in the Asia Pacific. And the Asia Pacific right now accounts for about 48% of total gaming revenue. So it's the majority worldwide. We're working with a company over there, Blockchain Labo, that actually organized and on behalf of over 600 Asian Pacific investors invested $4.5 million into our ICO, and those coins will be distributed to, again, those 600 plus investors. So we have very nice distribution in the Asia Pacific already. Right after the ICO, we'll be immediately listed on our Japanese partners exchange, which is going to be called BitPlus. And they're going to offer 4 versions, English version, Japanese, Chinese, and Korean, which again is going to enable us and give us the channel to communicate and allow Asia Pacific to be involved in our community. The second relationship, which is very important, is one of the largest gaming organizations in the entire Asia Pacific we're in direct negotiations with. They have over 10 plus online or physical casinos. Each casino has upwards of 10,000 players in that casino, and we're in negotiations to get our solutions rolled out to their players, starting with, hopefully, if everything goes right, 1 casino, if that's successful, rolling out to the rest of them, which I got a little bit ahead of myself there. I apologize. One of the things that's in line with our long-term vision is we're offering white label solutions. We want to provide a user experience that is comparable, if not better, than the traditional offerings, with everything that I mentioned before, the transparency, the verifiability, the probability fair, all of that. And if we can get adoption past decent.bet, then that's going to drive revenue and drive demand for the token. So the way that the white labels would work is all the licensing fees, upfront fees, and recurring fees are going to be required to be paid in D-bets. So it creates a secondary channel for demand for D-bets as these white label solutions start to get traction, which is very, very, very exciting to us, and we feel will be really big long term. I said one last thing, I lied. It's going to be 2 more things. The other thing that we've done different is we've developed custom technology on the Ethereum blockchain. So I don't know how many people out there are aware, but if you were to build a casino on the Ethereum blockchain without custom technology, every time you spin the slot machine, that transaction has to be verified and mined, which at times can take over a minute. So imagine sitting down at this new type of casino that you're excited to try, spinning the slot machine, letting it finish, and then sitting there for a whole minute before you could be able to spin again. Imagine rolling the dice in craps, waiting a minute before you can roll again. So we've developed a custom use of state channels that allow for a seamless experience where users can spin one after another with 0 lag time, roll one after another with 0 lag time, which other blockchain-based casinos aren't able to do unless they develop something similar to what we have. So with that technological competitive advantage, we feel that positions us well for these white label solutions and to become kind of the industry standard in regards to the platform that fuels blockchain gaming moving forward.
That's great. So many interesting things to follow. And for people out there who don't know, we have an Acapulco coming up this February 15th to 18th. That's for very freedom-minded people. But as well, the last day of an Acapulco is February 18th. Is called CryptoPoco, which is a lot of the biggest names in Bitcoin, blockchain, cryptocurrency technologies will be all down here in Acapulco, Mexico. That's February 18th. Then on February 19th, we actually have the Dollar Vigilante Internationalization and Investment Summit, where we have a lot of the crypto people as well. People like Trace Mayer and all kinds of other big people, and a lot of the people that have ICOs will be all down here. So if you want to check out a lot of that stuff, check that out. We'll have all the links down below, and we'll have the link to decent.bet down below if you want to check out the ICO and check out what they're doing. Do your own due diligence, of course, but I wanted to have Jedediah on and get the scoop on what's going on, and it does look incredibly interesting, Jedediah. So I wish you the best of luck with the finish of your ICO, and we'll be following you here to see how it progresses.
Awesome. Thank you. That was a mouthful right there. And I see how you pulled off that rap video so flawlessly. Kudos on that. That's one of the coolest things I've ever seen. So much respect, and I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, those 1980s rap skills when I was the number 2 white rapper in Canada came in handy all of a sudden in 2017 with Bitcoin. So you never know when things are going to, you're going to use your old skills once again. So yeah, I appreciate that. So if you like this video, please like, subscribe, share down below. Again, we'll have all the links to everything down below. And that's it for the Dollar Vigilante, helping you to survive and profit during and after the dollar collapse.